The following is a presentation of the St. Louis Chess Club.
Hello everybody and welcome to day 6 of the 2022 Fall Chess Classic. This is the 6th round. We've officially crossed that halfway point. And this is kind of that portion in the tournament where maybe you start to see who's pulling ahead, who might be able to become a winner. This is going to be where all of the action really starts. And my name is Jonathan Schrantz. I'm very happy to be joined here with Miro. And Miro, are you looking forward to seeing anything special today?
Well, first of all, hi everybody. And yeah, round 6 is where at least I think fair to say more than half of the people will score more than I'm in my last Fall Classic. It was pathetic. But yeah. So what I'm saying, still nothing's clear in the B tournament, but I believe today something important is going to happen in the A tournament.
Yeah, this could be
we will get
a clarifying round for sure.
I think we will get a clear leader.
So let's go ahead and get an idea of what is happening, starting with the standings for the A group. In the A group, we do have 2 people with 3.5 points. That is Vidit Gujrathi and Grigoriy Oparin. Now, at 3 points, we have Yangyi and Van Nguyen. At 2.5, we have Hans Niemann and Illia Nyzhnyk. We also have Aram Hakobyan sitting at 2.5. Below that, Nijat Abasov is sitting on 2 points. Surya Ganguly has 1.5 points, and Nikolas Theodorou has a full point. Now, Miro, can you let us know what's going on in the B group?
Yeah, B group, as we've already figured out, well, they tend to play many more games with, decisive games, right? Mm-hmm. And therefore, half a point more than the A group is a tie for the first. So we still have Raunak Sadhwani after the brilliant start, 3 out of 3. Well, he kind of slowed down a little bit with 2 draws in a row, and he is caught by Christopher Yu, Alex Lenderman. So this is the leading group, 4 out of 5, tied for the first. Clear 4th spot, 3 out of 5, Gergely Kantor. Then we have Denis Kadric, Brendan Jacobson already on 2, right? So these 3 top guys, they basically scored all the plus, right? Leaving more than half a tournament in minus score. Arman Mikaelyan, still after this one draw the round before, he lost 1 more game, so it's only on half a point out of 5.
That is right, and as you can see here, this was some footage taken as the round was just starting. You can see all of the players for the first time. They are playing in the Chase Park Plaza, and here you can kind of see this room that was set up just specifically for this tournament. So the site might also be the home for some of our future events as well. But for now, let's go ahead and get to know the format of today's tournament. There are 2 10-player round robins. We got the A group and the B group. It is 90 minutes for the first 40 moves. Then they get 30 minutes at move 40, which they get for the rest of the game. There's also a 30-second increment on every single move. Miro, could you please let us know about the schedule for the events?
Yeah, the remaining schedule means today, tomorrow, day after tomorrow. All the regular rounds start at 1 p.m. And the last one on November 10th will start 2 hours earlier, because in case of a playoff, and it's not very unlikely to have a playoff.
Right, we see a lot of people tied at the moment.
In both tournaments, we have a tie for the first, well, in the current, as it currently stands. So the playoff, if necessary, will be played on the same 10th November at 5 p.m.
That is right. And just like always, we are watching you guys. We are watching the chat. You're on Twitch. You're on YouTube. Maybe you're on uschesschamps.com. Wherever you are and watching us, welcome to the show. And if you do want to join in with us on social media, please use the hashtag FallChessClassic. You can watch us on uschesschamps.com. And of course, any bits, donations, or any money that we receive through YouTube, through Twitch, it all is going to a really amazing cause. It is going to get scholastic programming for children in the St. Louis area. So kids that might otherwise not have access to a full semester of chess programming will be getting it, and it's all thanks to you guys. So thank you so much for everything that you have contributed so far. And with that in mind, let's go ahead and see who is playing today in the A group. Now we have in the A group Illia Nyzhnyk going up against Van Nguyen, Surya Ganguly versus Yangyi, Nikolas Theodorou versus Arman Hakobyan, Vidit Gujrathi versus Nijat Abasov, and our game of the day, a very important one for the standings, is Grigoriy Oparin versus Hans Niemann. Grigoriy, one of the leaders of the event, Hans 1 point behind him.
Oh yeah, and they've started quite similarly, the tournament, right? So 3 draws first, but then Grigoriy kind of figured out, well, actually you have to start winning if you
He
want
found
something.
the magic sauce and he's got himself all the
absolutely.
way up to first place.
Right, Hans yet to score anything else than a draw.
All right. Well, what is going on? What's going on in the game? Let's get to know what is happening here.
Right. Yes. Let's see. Well, if anything, I do like Hans's position.
You always love it. We got the rooks on the open file. You seem to really like these open files.
Yeah,
is that the reason, or is there something else?
Well, it just feels that, like pretty much anything that could potentially gone wrong for white actually did. So the knights are, well, the knight on 3 is not bad, but I'd prefer the other one on f5 rather than f1, right? And the king is not perfectly safe. Black is much more active indeed on the d file, and don't be fooled with these doubled pawns, right? So the c4 pawn plays a major role. So black gets a very nice outpost on d3. So whenever, like white technically challenges black on the d file, but whenever he attempts to take on d3, and then if the rook captures, yes, of course, white be happy to trade the other rook, but black will capture with the pawn, and that will be very annoying passed pawn on d3.
How did all this happen? I mean, so a lot has happened here. Black has somehow
see.
managed to get a very comfortable position.
Let's see what the opening was. It was actually, for a change, maybe that's the main mistake on move 3, not the Jacobiano line, So whoever
we've seen a lot of Italian games in this tournament, but every now and then you got to see a Ruy Lopez, of course.
So an attempt to play the Berlin, anti-Berlin with d2, d3, bishop to c5, and knight b to d2. And I think we've seen this.
This looks very similar to something that we've seen in our other Ruy Lopez game from this tournament.
So knight b to d2 is, well, I think even someone who played this line, I don't remember, I believe it was the B tournament, someone from the B tournament, he played this line, he said, yes, of course, knight b d2 kind of doesn't bring white the advantage if black knows everything.
It is nice. When you see the Ruy Lopez, it's so nice to see something that's not a Berlin endgame, though, you know?
Absolutely.
Just give us anything else.
So castles, knight to b3. Okay, so that's the idea. Attack the bishop. Bishop goes to d6. Yeah, it's a little bit awkward for this bishop. Because, like if you, perhaps you'd like to put it on b6, but then the benefit of white's previous move is the d4 square is covered, and then bishop takes, pawn takes, white can actually take on e5. Because with the knight elsewhere, so quite often it would be with the knight on c3, right? And then black has queen d4, targeting f2, and the knight on e5. So that's usually the trick that saves black.
Very interesting idea from white, from the opening.
Saves black the pawn, but in this case, black has to go to d6. Anyway, castles, rook e8, bishop g5, okay, bishop h6. Even though it was the Ruy Lopez, we still get this Jacobiano vibes with bishop to g5. a6, bishop traded, and we have everything, pretty much everything in one. So now it also looks a bit like, what's that called? Ruy Lopez exchange variation, right? White ended up trading on c6. Knight f to d2, okay, so he keeps the knight on b3. All right, bishop here, f3, bishop e6, and somewhere around this point already you can kind of feel that white is not getting what he wanted to get. Because yes, you've doubled the pawns. Yes, you potentially have access to this f5 square, but white is nowhere near in time for all that. So bishop f2, queen e7, knight f1, so the knight starts its journey to f5, and c4. That's a bold move, like c4, d takes, b takes, knight d2, bishop b4. It's a very annoying pin. Well, perhaps not that one, but if white doesn't react, there will be a pin on the d file, right?
Okay,
so nice he goes c3, bishop to c5 then, and that is perhaps somewhat counterintuitive, but turned to be a very strong move. Bishop f2 and king takes f2. That's unexpected, I want to say. Knight to h5, g3. A check is a very clever move, it seems. So then knight e3, I presume some knight f4 would be possible. And then, and the knight is pinned, and therefore...
Very dangerous.
So therefore king goes to g2. Then black just plays logical moves. Rook a to b8, attack the pawn. Rook d8, take the open file. Rook to d3, rook to d8, rook b to d1, queen c6. So queen c6, targeting this guy, and also this, you know, the opposition of black's queen and white's king hints at some, I don't know, g4 sometimes.
Yeah.
f5, who knows? So that's once again.
It's very pleasant for black, and it just kind of, I don't know, was it just some small inaccuracy or something? Somehow just this advantage for black, it just seemed to kind of effortlessly grow here, and it looks very nice.
Not even clear where exactly white went wrong, right? I mean, it seems like a set of really minor inaccuracies.
Yeah, there must have been
like
some tiny thing at the
smaller,
beginning.
Yeah, smaller move here, smaller move there, and all of a sudden it kind of adds up to black being clearly better.
Wow. All right. So we're definitely going to be keeping our eyes on this one. For now, Hans Niemann with a slight advantage against his opponent. Looks very dangerous, so we will obviously be keeping an eye with what is going on here. Now, in our B group, we also have some very exciting and important pairings. Miro, would you go ahead and let us know what we got today?
Yeah. So as we have three leaders, it's literally impossible that they all play each other, right? But we've got two of the three. Anyway, we start with Tigran Harutyunyan facing Gergely Kantor, then Brandon Jacobson against Akshat Chandra. Raunak Sadhwani, one of the leaders, has the white pieces against Denis Kadric. That's a very interesting game. I've checked the position already. Then Cristian Chirila against Arman Mikaelyan. Cristian with white will be looking to try to, you know, score something. But yeah, that's the game of the day. Two leaders, both representing the United States, facing each other. Christopher Yu, Alex Lenderman, 4 out of 5. Christopher having the white pieces.
All right, so this one is absolutely huge. Both of these players with 4 out of 5 points so far. Let's go ahead and see what is going on with their game today. All right, a lot has happened. Comparatively to the last game, a lot has happened here.
That's one tricky position on the board. I'm not even sure how do you evaluate something like this? Because optically, at first, I mean, the first thing you notice is white's pawns here, and that, of course, makes you very optimistic about white's chances. But then the pawns are currently blocked, right? Also somewhat attacked, the pawn on e5, let's say. So I reckon white can try to take on a7, but then something along the lines of bishop g4 maybe, so an attempt to trade the knight on f3, capture the e5 pawn. Maybe it's not as bad for black as it might seem originally. We could quickly run through this game.
Yeah, how did we get here? Because this is very complicated. They made a lot of moves already.
Yeah, so that's the Petrov. And how do you get such positions against the Petrov, I may ask? Yeah. So knight takes, d takes e5, not the most common. Okay, d7, d5, knight to g2. And that's a funny move, queen d7, which might surprise you, but in fact, yeah, that's something that people do play. Bishop d3, knight to c5, castles. Captured here, bishop e7, rook e1, castles, d4, and queen to g4. So that's the whole setup with this queen d7. So the queen goes there, then if needed, bishop goes to f5 or even g4. So black has a very firm control over the light squares. So knight f1, queen to g6. Okay, g6 is also a square that makes sense. Bishop to g4. All right, and now. So one of the questions would be what happens if queen d5 is played, but perhaps some rook d8 or even knight c6. I don't see any immediate tactics, but just something. Anyway, white starts with h3. So white basically goes for some tricks. h3, bishop h3, knight g3. So white sacrificed the pawn, but now the bishop's hanging, d5 is hanging, and b7 is hanging.
Interesting. Wow.
So black is forced to move the bishop back all the way. Bishop to c8, queen captures on d5, knight c6, queen c4, and once again...
Yeah, so we can see how white got these extra center pawns here.
Yeah, so once again, I mean, if black is fully developed, like say, gets the time to play bishop g4, rook a d8, he's probably better, never mind the center, because of two bishops, you know, somewhat weakened white king's position. But it's all about the timing, right? Because d5 is a strong threat. So knight to b4, and white doesn't really react to knight c2 threat, because apart from knight c2, the other kind of more positional, but in a way even more convincing threat that black has is to play bishop e6 and then put the knight or maybe even the bishop to d5 and stop the advance of those pawns. So Christopher Yu goes with exchange sacrifice. So it's d5, knight to c2, yes, challenge has to be accepted, bishop e3, that is, yeah. Okay, now c7's hanging, black goes c6, d6, bishop to d8, and a4. So it's a clear exchange. So I suspect if we ask a computer, it will like black's position, but
Sure.
in practical
you think
game,
it might be difficult to play
it's
for
very
Niemann.
materialistic. Yeah, but in a practical game, who knows what's all that? So queen to g4, white even
Interesting.
doesn't mind to trade the queens and just set those pawns in motion. f6, f4,
Okay.
trade it. Bishop h4, knight e4. Now the knight is headed to c5. Rook e8, knight f3, bishop goes back. By the way, it seems that, yeah, black could have captured here and on e5.
Okay.
I'm not sure once again what kind of position is that.
It
Maybe the d pawn is still kind of threatening, but it would be the way to bail out with black already.
Yeah,
So
nice. Yeah,
that
if you can
means
find a way.
so that means since he went bishop d8, I believe he's not scared of these pawns, right? He
Interesting.
could have captured. So bishop d8, bishop a7. No, bishop a7 is not yet played.
Okay,
A7 is
so
not
they're
yet
sitting
played.
here and it's white to play. Oh, yeah, will be fascinating. So, I mean, black must be really happy and comfortable kind of
Yeah.
with the position. But, if those pawns are blockaded, they're not going anywhere.
Yeah, right, but only for now, and who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah, like some knight c5 is an option as well. Knight c5, bishop g4. Yeah, it's probably anything white does, black plans to play bishop g4. Okay. Anyway, that's you can't ask for much more. Yeah, the game between two leaders.
Yeah, so
and
this,
some people would
and they're
expect
trying to win, They didn't just make a
exchange, I don't
gentlemanly
know,
draw. This is
exchange
definitely one that's
love
gonna
or
have
something. Yeah,
some
that's
action in it. Awesome. So we're definitely going to keep our eye here, see what transpires in this game. But for now, why don't we just kind of go around the horn? Maybe we can get a kind of a feel for what is going on with all of the rest of the games. Is there anywhere you'd like to go, Miro?
yeah. Well, let's just go one by one.
Absolutely.
A tournament,
What do we got?
and that's Illia Nyzhnyk and Van Nguyen. Ilya having the white pieces and not such a pleasant position, I'm afraid.
All right.
Not such a pleasant position, I'm afraid. Those doubled pawns, well, they are kind of weak slightly and also limit the bishop's activity, right? So bishop b2 you'd like to play perhaps, but not in this position, right? Not with the pawn on c3. But Ilya is known for kind of escaping you from
Absolutely.
some,
That's definitely the style. Plays kind of non-theoretical, which sometimes means you get a bad position, but it's very hard to beat him. Although we did see after we left, Yangyi was able to defeat Ilya yesterday.
Managed to convert against Ilya. Right, so actually rook e3,
looks like
rook
this all probably
d1
happened.
and rook e1. So now,
Is there any chance we see a draw here?
not really.
Are they playing these moves?
Oh,
Or
wait a
is
second.
that you going back?
He did repeat.
Oh, okay.
He did repeat,
So we
yes.
might have
After
caught
rook
this one
e3,
right at the end.
It was a check and rook d3, rook e3.
All right, so there is the potential that this one just ends here.
I was thinking black could actually play knight h5, point being, attacking f4 and, okay, it's not really a trap, but sort of, right? So e4 pawn cannot be taken.
With the stream.
Yeah,
But,
that's nice. Yeah.
But I guess we can go all the way to the top of this game and just go through it, whether people
Right,
are seeing it or not.
Let's see. Hello in stream, yeah, exactly.
All right, yeah. Let us give us a thumbs up or a heart or something if you can hear us. Just want to make sure we're talking to somebody, but we can talk to ourselves just as well. So how did we get here in this game?
By playing the Nimzo defense. Castles, e3, c5, a3, And the good
So
old...
it's like a same-ish, but it started with e3, and then
right.
only a3 a little bit later.
Yeah.
All
So
right.
d6 and e5, and that's kind of a good old-fashioned setup. Wait a second, but good old-fashioned does not involve sacrificing the pawn, so that's something new to me at least. Let me check. Bishop d3 was played, not on high level, but well, so some.
Yeah,
some
I feel like this
players.
is not quite the same-ish move order if you start with a3 immediately, because sometimes they're playing with like f3
Yeah,
rather than a
so,
knight on
so
f3.
the samish would mean the pawn is on f3, right? Anyway,
So this is a little different.
It turns out that as early as move 8 in the Nimzo Indian, you
This
can
is a new
play a
one.
novelty. Okay, at
All
least
right,
according to the database we have.
All right, and it looks like it's white that has been prepared, so this probably wasn't something that was prepped by black. It looks like black had actually spent
Yeah.
22 minutes or so to get to this point.
Could be.
So maybe just coming up with something on the spot and decides to sack a pawn.
Yeah, white captures, queen to e7, and perhaps, with this doubled pawns and black having the free development, there's always going to be some compensation at the very least. If white just calmly goes away, bishop e6, knight c6, knight a5 if needed, will target the pawn, right? Rook's in the center. So
Yeah, so black is definitely hoping to get enough activity here.
Yeah.
And white plays f4.
f4, knight to d7, and then knight back to f3. Well, not sure how I feel about this knight d7 move, because the knight is misplaced. It would be much better on c6. Anyway, so b7, b6, bishop to b7. White is a pawn up, but it's very hard to push the pawn forward. And with the pawn on e3, this guy is quite stupid. The pawns are still weak. Yeah, probably black is like at least not worse than. Okay, rook a to d8. Once again, if I may suggest, I'd probably look at knight e4 immediately, because just knowing what happened to rook a d8, white did play e4. So this way black gets the pawn back, but at least white gets some sort of like frees up his position a little
very
bit.
interesting.
Queen to d5, queen f7. Yeah, so here it turns out you can't really take e4 because one of the rooks to e8, right? And then
Suddenly got some issues.
x-ray on this rook. So a4, knight f6, traded, a5, and this is pretty much how we've gotten there. h6, king f1. Knight g4 and back, rook e3, couple of checks, and here we are. Yeah.
Okay, so we're waiting. I don't know. Does it feel like black should be trying to play for something a little bit more here?
Yeah. Still, I believe it's black who is trying. So perhaps objectively, it's already closer to a draw, or maybe just equal. But black is out of risk for sure.
All right. Well, black is going to take a little bit of time here and think and see if they can find a way to come up with an advantage here. While that's going on, we can go ahead and take a look at yet another game.
Yeah, why don't we check Vidit against Abasov? Yeah, that's a very, very original position. Oh, rather, position might be looking fine, but if I'd ask you, how did the king ended up on b1? So, logically it'd be a long castle, but the answer is no.
What?
The answer is no.
How did he get there?
I was checking this game like before we went live, and well, it starts with evergreen, very popular.
Sure.
London.
We can have one London
system.
per tournament, sure.
e3, and this queen b6 move.
Okay.
And that's why it's known that, if you want to play London, you probably play with bishop f4, right? So you usually do not rush with knight f3. And here the move would be knight d2, so that queen b6 is kind of less annoying. So queen b6 and...
White allows this.
Yeah, b2 is hanging, which is quite unpleasant. But yeah, white just goes knight d2, says if you want to take. It's very risky. C takes, e takes. Nijat decided, it's too much. Taking on b2, I'm not even sure what the theory is. Perhaps something aggressive with an immediate c4. Anyway, so bishop to g4, knight b3. So this time, Vidit says, but now, of course, you had the chance to take this pawn, but not anymore. Knight to d7, captures on g6. So it's like many opening lines in one line, because h3, g4, and then trading the bishop on g6, usually via h4, not e5, would look like some lines in the French, sorry, not French, but Slav defense. Slav defense, yeah. In the Slav defense. But then for whatever reason you have the knight on b3, and so it's a very original setup. Bishop g2, bishop d6, yeah, we keep those bishops on the board. Queen e2, knight b6, c3, knight to c4, and white goes knight d2, quote unquote, blundering the pawn. Not really, because queen b5. So knight takes and pawn takes.
All right.
Yeah, and taking with the pawn perhaps makes a lot of sense, otherwise black would have gotten the square on f4 for the bishop. But this allows black to give a check and force the king to d1. And
so this is how the king slowly gets over there.
Yeah.
We can start to tell how he got over.
Castles, king to c2, e5, g5. And e5 perhaps is not ideal. Rook f1, e takes, rook e8, rook to d1, king to b1, and this is how we've gotten there. Knight back to b3, and all of a sudden, yeah, they've started to play like slow positional moves. Knight c1, well, covers e2 for now, and also kind of heads towards d3, which is perhaps the best, arguably the best square here. a5. Black had to stop knight b4 because it's really awkward to protect the d5 pawn. So as far as I can tell, white perhaps has some advantage here, simply because the knight on h5 is currently out of the game.
Yeah, it does feel like black might have a little bit of coordination issues with some of the pieces here. And this is a huge one because Vidit is also one of the leaders in the A group. So it will be interesting to keep our eyes on this one because if Vidit can win yet another game, I mean, he's really starting to run away with this one. So we'll keep our eyes here as well. A lot to talk about today. Are there any other games that have your
absolutely.
interest?
So we still remember, of course, of Oparin and Hans, but yeah, let's quickly check the other two.
Sure.
Ganguly against Yangyi, and if white has one queen and black has 0 queens.
Ooh, wait, that's a lot less queens.
I'm about to say.
Oh, wait, how many pieces does he have?
Yeah, I'm about to say
God.
white is a queen up,
Wait,
but
wait,
let's count the pieces on the other side because it's got a couple of knights and the rook, and that means.
Wait a minute.
Black has
really
more, right?
Black.
Black has more.
This could be really good for black.
Black
How did we get here? This is insane.
It's only move 26, and that's unusual to. I almost want to say black is winning. I mean, with such material.
I feel like as we're getting deeper into the tournament, I don't know if it's people trying harder to win or if it's fatigue or whatever it is, but it seems like today we are being treated to just a lot of very exciting games.
Okay, yeah. So that's an interesting thing. Knight to f6, which is rarely played, I believe, but then I see once again a name of one Magnus Carlsen who recently played it. Well,
So,
relatively
sounds like
recently.
a good move to me.
Played it with black. So check. Black has to block with the knight, I reckon. Yeah. So basically, if you block with the bishop, then white can trade and go c4, and black does get some compensation, but that's an extra pawn, like kind of for real. After knight d7, if you try to protect the pawn c4, black would go with a6 and then b5 and getting sort of a Benko type compensation. White goes with knight f3, but black still goes for a6 and then b5 and bishop b7. Castles, bishop d5, so that's actually a very, very comfortable position for black. d4, e6. a4, b4. White still tries to be ambitious with a4, b4, a5, nailing down this a6.
Still so far, I had no idea how we got to that juicy position from here. This is what's happening?
How does one win the queen? Bishop g5, bishop b7, knight d2. Okay, b takes, castles, knight to e5, c d4, c d4. So far, still not that easy to tell. And queen to c3. And hang on, and white went knight c4. Looks like white kind of hallucinated a little. Yeah, he simply blundered. Knight c4, bishop c4, rook e3. So he thought,
to maybe win this bishop
I'm trapping the queen, or if the queen goes to b4, I suspect something like that was the plan.
Somehow attacks the queen.
Yeah, knight c6 is not really because queen d6. So that was a really, really strange knight c4 move. And he overlooked, what he overlooked was queen takes, knight takes, and then the d pawn is pinned.
Ah, that's so nice. Okay, so this looks like it was just a blunder then.
Yeah, rook to b1, knight g6, just to keep everything safe and sound. Knight to d5, bishop to g5, and bishop b5.
Yeah, there you go. So it looks like even though black is without the queen, black is very comfortable here.
Yeah, I mean, he's just winning, or rather, he has won, as I was
This
told.
game is actually officially over, and we have a very special treat because we are going to be doing interviews a little bit differently today. We are actually going to have the players right here in the seats. So in just a moment, we will have Yangyi sitting right here next to Miro for an interview.
Yeah.
All right, so well, we get him on there. Maybe you can look at a game, and we'll have you in just a moment.
Yeah, we'll wait for you to arrive in the studio. So meanwhile, just quickly, I'll click through the last game remaining, which is the last game that we didn't pay attention to. It was Theodorou against Hakobyan. Here, that's move 36. And for quite some time, they are playing this strange-looking, to my eyes, strange-looking position where they have the bishop of opposite colors. White is up a pawn, but that's a doubled pawn, so perhaps shouldn't be anything too serious. But yeah, white keeps trying. Now targets c7 pawn. You don't really like to play c6 because check. So it's a little awkward for black still. I've got a feeling that it was easier beforehand, and now maybe white gets somewhere, but of course you need to calculate such things. Anyway, we'll go back to our studio anytime. Yep, here we are. Yeah. Welcome to the studio, Grandmaster Yangyi won today's game. Yeah. And could you please tell us a little bit, because we did look and we honestly didn't understand much. Mm-hmm. So did he blunder, and what was he planning to do? And yeah.
Okay.
So just if you could tell something about this game and.
Okay. This game is a very interesting game. Yeah, d5. In this year, August, I play d5, pawn take knife 6 in Turkey League. Yeah, same idea. Yes.
Ah.
Yeah, maybe just like interesting sacrifice pawn. Yeah, first.
Yeah. So white can go here, right? White can go to c4, but then you just play e6, and because of say this square and development, and black probably has a very good position.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Here, bishop b5 or queen a4 is mean. Yeah. Here. Yeah.
Ah, he can also go queen a4.
Yeah, queen a4, knight b7, queen b3. Yeah.
Ah, so the queen protects the pawn. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, maybe g6. Yeah. Yes.
And
yes.
Knight f3, right?
Yeah, bishop g7. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe black is okay. Yeah.
So still, you will go knight b6, e6 somehow, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sometimes maybe b6, bishop. B7.
Ah, or maybe b6, bishop b7.
Yes.
Yeah. So early pawn sacrifices. You see, chat. This is how it's done.
Yes. My opponent play bishop b5. It's okay. Knight bd7. Yeah. Knight f3, a6. Yeah. Here I remember maybe I analyze bishop e2 better.
Ah, yes. So bishop a4 is a little bit surprising, yeah?
Yeah, bishop e2, knight d5.
And still d4.
Yeah, d4, e6, castle. Yes. Maybe equal, maybe white slightly better. Yeah.
So that actually, surprisingly, looks very normal for C3 Sicilian, right? Because you would expect, since let's say it's an original white, it should be original position. But this one actually looked very normal, right?
Yes.
And here he gets the bishop on c2. Mm-hmm. You captured with the bishop. This looks perhaps fine. Yeah. So next stop is probably a4.
Yeah. Here I don't think. Because first I think bishop d6 here. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Pawn take, wait. Yes, queen a8.
Takes on 8.
Yes, queen. Yeah, pawn take.
Oh.
Yeah, bishop take. b4. Yeah.
b4.
Yeah, I think next move knight 3. Yeah, maybe b5 pawn.
So it looks like you have everything like great, but since no castle yet and so on, he will probably attack b5 in a very ugly way, knight a3,
yes,
bishop d3, but there might be problems, right?
Yes, maybe no DC takes maybe first knight a3. Yeah, yeah.
Ah, maybe knight a3
Yeah, yeah.
first, like
Yeah,
like
yes,
this,
yeah.
right?
I don't know.
Because
Yeah, I think
if
black
before knight b5
Yes.
and stuff
Yes.
like that, yeah,
Yes.
and it
Yeah.
can be very unpleasant. Yes.
Yeah, so I played before. Yeah, I
Yeah,
learned
just
some-
before.
Yes.
Okay, a4, b4,
Yes.
and he goes a5.
Yeah, a5, queen c7. Yeah.
Ambitious.
Here, I think maybe bishop d6. I don't know. First bishop d6.
To play bishop d6.
Yeah, looks no more. Yeah, I think d pawn take. Yeah,
Pawn takes.
yeah, bishop c5. Take.
So he takes
Yeah, bishop
everything
take.
again.
Bishop d2. I don't know.
Bishop d2.
Yeah.
And,
I don't know.
right. So you were not sure if it's good for black, right?
Yes.
So maybe some difficulties with this thing later on, right? Like
Yeah,
bishop takes, he
take,
takes
knight,
with
yes.
b d2.
Castle maybe equal.
Castle.
But
Yeah, probably.
yeah, yes. Today I wanted to win. Yes.
Yeah, you wanted to win. We all
Yes.
realized that. Yeah. So
Yeah.
rook to d8,
Yes.
and it worked nicely for you.
Yeah.
Bishop e7, knight d2. So where is his like kind of big mistake?
Yeah. Take.
Takes.
Yeah. Here is
castle,
normal. Knight e5.
Knight e5,
Pawn
c takes, c takes.
h6.
Still, he wants to
Yeah.
keep the bishop.
Yeah, I think maybe my opponent missed queen c3, very important. Yeah, maybe queen c3 is good
Queen
move.
c3, and
Yeah.
then
Yeah, here I think maybe white only move. Oh, sorry, no only move. Knight d f3 maybe better, or
knight df3.
yeah, yes,
Somehow he needs to protect this pawn,
Yeah.
and it's not very easy, right?
yes, because knight f3, rook c8. I think black slightly
This
better.
or?
Yeah, better. Yeah, rook
Mhm.
c8.
Rook c8.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
this is like awkward. Rook c1, you will take the pawn. Yes,
Yes,
yeah. This bishop has no way to go.
Yeah, maybe bishop a4 here.
Bishop a4,
Yeah, rook f d8. I think black is better. Yeah.
f to d8, and
Yes.
then this guy goes to g6 if needed. Yeah, looks
Yes.
like
Black is better.
looks like black is better here,
Yeah.
and he just blundered
Yeah.
basically.
Yes.
Knight d to c4.
Yeah. Take. Here, I think only move white is rook c1. Yeah. Here.
He could continue because we
Yes,
thought
mm.
like he blundered this knight takes e5 idea, right? Queen e3, knight e5,
Yeah,
and we
yes,
thought
yes,
he lost. But no, rook
Yeah.
c1.
Yeah. Rook c1. I think knight e5. Very interesting.
Wow.
Bishop h7. Knight h7.
Knight. Oh, you.
Yes.
Rook c3 and
Bishop-
bishop h4.
Yeah. Rook e5.
That's a wow.
Yeah.
That's
here,
a funny position.
Yeah. Bishop f6. I think.
Bishop f6. First, still probably black
Yeah.
is better
Yeah,
because
of course, black better because rook e4 maybe knight e5.
you have a lot of intermediate moves.
Yes. Yes. I think
Knight
white is.
c5 and bishop to b5
yes.
and then
Mm.
double and win the pawn.
Yes, of
and
course,
so on.
black is
Right.
better. Yeah,
Black
maybe
is
knight
much
is
better.
Yeah, knight d4 is.
Yeah, and knight d to c4, rook
Yeah.
e3, and that's of course beautiful idea we already discussed on the show. That queen
Yeah,
e3,
yeah.
knight e5, and too many pieces,
Yes, yes.
right? Is it your first visit to St. Louis? Tell me. Or
No.
you've played here, right? Wait a second. You've played in a Magnus's
yes,
event,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Absolutely.
This is my
in the
third
chess
time.
tour, right? It's his third time.
third time in here. Yeah, 2 times in play summer class.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Summer classic.
Yeah, this is my third time.
All right. And how does it go for you so far? So far, has it been good?
Yes, I think
Right.
it's
So
good tournament. Yes.
it's a nice tournament. I can confirm. It's just that I cannot play chess,
Yes.
and hopefully it will go. Okay, it already goes much better than for me. I don't know if you know, but the only time I played it was terrible. So good luck with the remaining end game of the tournament, the remaining 3 hours, and yeah.
Okay,
And
so-
I will, thank you very much. And I will return to the B tournament for now. We have not Jacobson, what I'm saying, guys. Christopher Yu and Alexander Lenderman. And I'm looking what moves were played in this game. Yes, so that is the position we left long time ago. The pawn on a7 was captured, bishop g4, knight d2, g5. Knight h2, bishop d4. Ah, well, somehow, white managed to take this a7 pawn and not to lose any of his pawns. And it might seem that a7 pawn is not that relevant. Yeah, white is not getting the passed pawn or anything, but it is important because the dark squares, like white's getting a lot of access to dark squares, potentially both b6 and c5. So that's the position, white to move, and 5 minutes only left for Alexander Lenderman. It's move 33 though, so not a big time trouble, but there is some.
All right, and it is very good to be back in studio with you, Miro. That was an excellent interview with you, Yangyi. A very complicated and interesting game, as is this one that you're looking at right now.
Yeah, but I'm still under impression with, I mean, that's what happens when, 27 plus player explain what the game was, because from the outside it looks okay, they just played moves, like white blundered, black won, and then it's so much
so many
left,
layers there.
So much left behind the scenes, right?
Absolutely, it was a really nice and pleasant interview.
Okay, so
all right, what else is going on? Catch me up.
Yeah, well, I actually think let's go back to the A tournament because we still have our game of the day going.
All right.
We have that's not the game of the day. Where's the game of the day? Hans Niemann.
Yes, what has been happening? When we left it, Hans was doing pretty well.
Yeah,
Let's see if he was
that's
able
it.
to
Queen
do anything
C6 was the last move we've seen, and here Oparin went for quite a transformation of the position. He went with knight to d5, bishop d5, rook d3.
Okay, this
so
is a tricky
traded
solution.
here, and you can't actually. So he's temporarily a piece down, but there is a pin on the d file, which black has difficulties breaking. Right,
Okay,
knight
this might have been a nice solution here.
Knight e3 and rook to b8. Okay, let's see. So white has to capture on d5.
Yes.
Not sure if it's pawn takes or knight takes. So if pawn takes, let's imagine black captures on b2 with a check.
All right.
King goes somewhere.
I hope you're not asking me. This is starting to get a little bit crazy.
But that's the problem. I want to say somewhere, but I don't see the square which would be clearly preferable over the others. Because king g1, black will be happy to play queen c5 and pin the knight, right? King h1 just feels wrong. I mean, in the corner, why would you? And I wonder, maybe rook e2 is a playable move, in fact. Rook e2, just trade. And if black captures over there, a6 pawn is hanging in the end. I don't think it's all that dangerous for white.
Okay, but there's probably a lot of different ways. We might get into some endgame where
there will be
some sort of queen endgame.
There will be. There is also like queen c3, and once again, I mean, you have to calculate all the stuff like
so
queen takes, attacking the knight, or just knight f5 for white. I mean, so it's a lot
some of the
options.
hardest things to do is to, when you have a couple choices, you can have this endgame, that endgame. Maybe you get 2 or 3 different choices. You have to find just the right one.
So in reality, what happened was knight to d5. Right, so he captures knight to d5. So this is arguably a bit more forcing line because after rook b2, rook e2, in order to say capture on now nothing works because he absolutely has to take on e2, right? Queen e2. Now he has to trade. He has to trade the knight in order to win the pawn. Well, not to win the pawn back. He is. Material is equal, so he tries to win the pawn. Knight d5, ad5, and then black has a choice. I just realized black has a choice of 3 pawns to capture.
I know, there's so many.
But I don't really see any way of be sure that black has the advantage, right? Because a6 is hanging in 2 cases, and if queen a4, then queen e5, you do have the side passed pawn, but the king is very vulnerable, so it will be
interesting. And this is where they are now. He's deciding which pawn to recapture.
Yeah.
And it kind of has me wondering, it felt like black had something at some moment, like he had a good position.
Absolutely.
I'm wondering if he did, or if it was always just going to inevitably lead to some sort of endgame.
No. I think, once again, if we
kind
of
cheat a little at this moment where we left it, it felt so good. So
that is much better for black. And queen c6 overlooked knight d5. So queen c6 actually, the move that I was praising.
Knight d5 was a really
so
nice
knight
spot.
d5 was a very nice resource. And Compi recommends just to go back to f6 because this knight f4 sacrifice in this setup probably never happens, so just return the knight back to f6.
You had me excited. I thought you were going to say, you just played knight f4. This was what he missed. There was some mega exciting tactic.
No, but we were discussing, that sometimes knight f4 would be an idea. So since it doesn't work, you just return. Maybe you have g4 ideas. Maybe now queen c6 that you have d5 covered.
Had to maybe identify this knight d5. Wasn't easy to see.
All right, so we are already here.
Okay,
Black
so we can see which
captured
pawn he took.
on c3, white captured on a6, queen d2 check. So this way he ends up a pawn, I'm guessing, or not. King h3, I mean, takes this.
I don't want to take a hard stance on who is or isn't up a pawn.
This.
Yeah, there's more pawns, just keep taking.
Yeah.
Just keep going.
So it's not impossible that we'll see another drawing on
Oh my gosh. He has 5 draws in a row, looking to make it number 6 potentially.
Yeah, right.
I don't think you can say black has any advantage anymore, right?
No,
I think it's,
not at all.
Draw seems like almost inevitable when
all.
it's going to be this wide open with
Not at
queens. All right. Well, we'll come back and we'll see what actually does end up happening here. But what else do we have going on?
Chat mentioned something about Abasov. All
Okay,
right.
well, let's take a look.
They say, they are talking about kind of previous things in the game. Abasov missed e5, e4, which would have given him like a huge advantage. I'm not sure which moment was it. So e5 was played, e5, g5. I don't think e4 here because the knight's hanging. So
right.
apparently knight h5, queen g4, rook f1, and probably here,
Maybe
like
here,
e4.
And it just shuts down all of the white pieces.
Yeah, and it lets you, kind of keeps you wondering why not e4 indeed, because you can also think of f5 as say, if white does what he was doing, then even f5 pawn takes, and I imagine the point would be that we take with the pawn, intending to play f5 once again, because of the queen g6, the bishop is kind of vulnerable, maybe say just play this, threaten rook g8, threaten knight g3 in some cases. I can easily imagine something like this working for black.
Yeah. Okay, so maybe there was a missed opportunity there. And where are they now?
Right, where are they now? We've seen a5 preventing knight b4, bishop went to f3, rook g8 is, like mysterious rook move, but once again he wants to play f5 and recapture with the pawn when
He's
f5
not
is
sacking
taken.
that b pawn. He's going to make sure it's protected. All
h4, f5, queen to h3, rook h8. Okay. So that's, not so bad. It no longer looks as bad as it was. Rook h1. Still, the pieces are somewhat tied down. How do we kind of?
I know you really want to solve the problem.
Yeah, this knight's not very, not very useful. Not very useful on h5. You can go knight f4. I almost want to say go bishop f4 and knight g3, and if it happens, it's cool and all. But then the bishop on f4 is, maybe just take queen f3 or take rook e1. It's still very easy to blunder something. That's kind of the bottom line. Vidit is down to 4 minutes only after this.
Okay. And what move are they on here?
That's move 32, so still...
So still 8 more moves.
Still 8 more moves. Abasov is...
Slightly difficult.
10.
So we will see what is happening in this one. Could you bring our attention to the Kadric game and see if there's any developments there?
Yeah. So that's B tournament, and indeed I keep forgetting that we have one more leader.
Yes, so
Raunak Sadhwani, who is facing Denis Kadric.
Okay.
Denis Kadric, if you remember, no, it wasn't him. But in B tournaments, someone was always in the time trouble. Right? We had a guy who would be like 15 minutes or so. So Kadric's game looks like it's in progress still. I don't quite understand what's going on. And surprise, surprise, Denis Kadric himself will be joining me in the studio analyzing his game, which he apparently won. I reckon, yes, that's how this 30 minutes delay works, ladies and gentlemen. So we are speculating on what's going on, what's going to happen in such an exciting position. It turns out the player already finished the game. took trouble, and we are very grateful for this, took trouble to join us in the studio, and yep, hopefully we are ready. Yeah, welcome, welcome,
Thank you,
welcome.
thank you.
So now you know where the studio is.
Yes.
Where
I
all
was
the
like, wow, we're
production-
going to the chess house. Now
yeah,
I know.
you go to the chess house and you'll tell us everything what goes on in this tournament, because you started quite a while, then something went not according to plan, I reckon.
Well, like to be honest, all of the games I was kind of winning. Like the only game I wasn't winning, like winning was against like Brandon. I was there maybe only +1.5, I would say.
+1.5. It's
Only,
not,
yes,
it's
yeah.
not winning.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I made like half out of those 3 games. So yeah, pretty bad for me. But I guess this win nullifies it a little bit.
Yeah, so you've taken over one of the tournament leaders, right?
Yes.
And with the Keynes Indian defense,
Yeah.
if I can tell correctly, and a very, very funny line, I want to say.
I mean,
Yes.
engine, huh? Engines.
H7, H6. It just that recently I was, I don't know, giving some kids class, and it came about this position in the King's Indian. We were discussing the main line, knight c6, and how it is nowadays in sort of a crisis, and then someone came up that you can play literally any move. Knight h5
Yes.
is the move, some queen e8,
Queen,
I don't know,
yes.
b6.
Even today, I think I was looking at the engine. Like one of the first choices is actually like rook e8 now.
Rookie. So basically,
Yes,
you're
one of-
fine with
yes.
playing the known
Yes.
position tempo down. Anyway, so can you tell us a little bit like the
Okay,
sort of general idea? Of course, it's a preparation. You don't have to.
I mean, yeah, but I would say there are like 2 main ideas. Like one is if he goes bishop e3, we now have knight g4, of course.
yeah.
So he cannot,
usually
he doesn't
they
have
go bishop g5.
Yeah,
now
he
they
doesn't
don't
have bishop
it.
g5 anymore. And the other one is like to maybe sometimes go even knight h7, knight g5. That's also sometimes
alright.
an idea.
Yeah.
So here they mostly play, I guess, like or DE or D5, but he played the best move. Rook e1 is by
Rook
far
to
the
E1.
best move, and now knight bd7.
Knight bd7. So what's interesting, I just discovered that, for instance, it was played by Fabiano Caruana already.
Yes.
So whenever a computer shows something strong, like the strong players, they immediately test it,
Yeah.
battle test it.
Yes, they try it out. So knight bd7, and now here this is the best thing. Like if he goes now bishop f1, let's say, because like that's the most logical for me, right? Now here black can play like or knight h7. That's an idea. And now
all right,
like
and sometimes knight
yes,
g5.
and now like if you go bishop e3, let's say, you jump anyways knight g5, knight g5, hg, yes, and now like if you play let's say f3 or something, here actually a very good position for black is to just take on d4 immediately, bishop d4, and now just b6 and stuff like that.
B6,
And like
and-
engine loves this position for black. Bishop
if these
B6.
guys are swapped, then you have a very nice.
Yes, you put the
output
knight on e5, you go king g7, rook h8, queen f6. It's really like actually a very nice position because you have an idea, even though the squares look very bad, there's a very nice idea later on when the knight goes on d5 that you play c5. He moves the
maybe we could
yeah,
kind
sure,
of construct it. Okay,
Yeah,
let's say
like
one
let's say takes queen d4,
captures,
knight
does
d5.
something, a check.
Let's say knight d5, whatever.
Knight d5.
Bishop b7, rook d1. And now here, the idea will be, let's say I play rook h8 first. Rook h8, and now you play something, b3 or something, whatever.
Yeah.
I just want to like show you like that it's like c5 idea. When he moves the queen back, you actually just take on d5.
You just take
Rook
and
d5,
even
and then
if-
queen f6.
So that's only one weakness, which is easy to guard.
And now here I actually have queen f4 ideas also to attack you over the h5. It's very, very interesting.
Yeah. That's
So-
a very bad bishop on f1.
Yeah,
indeed.
that's kind of one ideas, but you don't have to play knight h7. You can also just play or rook e8 or c6, getting a very normal. But queen c2 is the best move.
Rook e8,
I actually
and-
played against Shevchenko, the same line, Shevchenko Kirill, and I didn't know queen c2, so I played some c6, but white is there definitely better. So rook e8 is the best. Now he should take de, de. I knew all of this basically because he also plays himself the h6 line.
Ah, really?
Yeah. So bishop e3, c6, and now this knight a4 was played by Prague, if I remember correctly.
Turns out, it is.
Prague Sindarov, yes,
Dragan
from the Olympia.
Sindarov.
Yeah. So
Queen
queen
to
7 I think was also played in his game, even
Wow.
though I'm pretty sure it's not the best move.
Yeah, you're following the game. Yeah,
Yes.
here it is.
And I knew that like the idea of queen c7 is that now c5 is not so good because of b5.
All right, so c6 pawn is protected,
Yes.
and then you can go.
So that was the whole
b5,
idea of queen
takes
c7.
takes, and queen c7 guards
Yes,
c6.
but I think he played, if I remember correctly, because I was looking a little bit like what the engine like suggests, that he played the best move just like rook a d1. And now here, to be honest, I started to think I didn't really know what am I doing, like because if I go knight f8, the problem with knight f8, if I just want to go this is like bishop c5, I think. Bishop c5 is very annoying.
And he'll put the
That's
bishop on
it.
d6
And
and queen. Yeah.
That looks very ugly.
Yeah, so you're gonna have to keep the knight on d7, b6 first,
b6,
b4, bishop to f8. Okay.
And now he got this
c5.
position. I'm pretty sure he's just better here, but I have no idea. Like, okay, I mean this is all I think kind of forced. Let's say a3.
Logical,
I didn't know what to do.
You have to go to b8. It seems.
No, but here
right?
he started like this g4. Okay, no, this is all okay. h3 I think was okay. I think king
h3,
h7.
yeah, probably.
And
to
now
stop
and now
bishop.
this move I don't like by him at all.
And he went g4.
Yeah, because that kind of
Very aggressive, right?
Yeah,
Very
but I
aggressive.
wasn't-
He probably could try to do something a bit more.
I was thinking like maybe knight e2, knight b3 just.
Yep. So that's a suggestion for him to improve.
think
Anyway, let's go with the flow. G4, Queen B2, Knight D7. So Black got the time to develop the bishop.
Yeah, I mean here now I also have sometimes ideas to go like even over the A file, like to maybe go like rook A6, rook A8, and then AB.
Double
But okay,
and
but I also
something.
have to be careful because he can sacrifice always on B5, so it's not so simple. But here knight D2, no, here something went wrong for me. Yeah, king H1. Now here he wasn't even looking what I was doing, to be honest. I have a feeling, because here I already lost my position.
Okay, so G5 and knight gets to
G5, knight
F4.
G6. And now here he went for H4, but I think that's just not good, because taking the pawn is just.
So yeah, that's perhaps the pawn that any King's Indian player is happy to sacrifice, right?
I mean now everything
the
just
square
like,
on F4, so everything just works.
everything just is amazing now for me. I have a feeling.
Wow, knight H7, and you captured, went knight G5, so all the dark squares, right?
Yeah.
Took, knight F3, bishop F4.
Okay, bishop F4. After that, I think it's over because he now has like a trick. If I don't play bishop F4, that he's gonna go like knight D5 and then next move.
I hear
Yeah.
knight D5 and take.
Always ideas and then like D6, knight E5. So but after
here-
bishop F4 now he doesn't really I think have anything.
So he, well,
No wait, that's wrong.
captured. No, that's
that's
wrong. We
wrong.
don't have the end of the game. We are lagging. We are
okay.
half a year.
Yeah.
Sorry, half an hour behind.
Knight D5 was the move.
Knight D5
Yeah.
was the move in the game.
Yeah, I mean he didn't know what to do, so he did that. He takes bishop C8. He took now bishop B5 because if he plays D6, I'll just go queen C6. So bishop B5 and now rook B8.
Rook to B8.
And now I calculated only like two things. D6 is one, after which queen B7 I go. And now after bishop E2, I don't actually take on B4, but I play bishop D7. I think that's like
And
killing.
just
just
block those guys.
block
and-
everything, and now I think it should be over. Bishop C6 is coming, and I blocked
Right.
everything.
And what did he do in the game?
He played.
The queen B7.
He played.
Oh no, he didn't play D6, right?
No, yeah, he played here queen E2.
He played queen
Queen
E2.
E2, yes. Queen B7. Bishop D3. Queen B4.
And you just
And here, just a
captured.
very nice line, just to show it. Like,
Mhm.
if he goes rook B1, I take,
Oh,
take,
yeah. Yeah, bishop takes, rook takes.
knight E1,
Knight E1.
bishop
and-
A6,
Ah.
queen E4, and now bishop D3.
Bishop D3 is a pleasant move,
yes,
right?
a very nice.
The queen is overloaded. Yeah, queen E4 actually was attacking the
Yes,
rook.
the,
and
the,
you-
the rook was saying that's the thing. so if I don't have bishop
Yeah,
D3, I
bishop
mean
D3.
it's still winning, but this is a nice
yeah,
win at the
that's a
end.
beautiful win.
So yeah, he didn't go for that. He played after
Queen B4.
queen B4. He played now queen C2.
But that already
Yeah, it
feels
should be
like
over.
agony.
It was rook H3. Wait, what did he play here now? He played bishop G6,
Wait.
FG6. Okay, here now he gets a little bit tricky, like knight D4.
Knight D4,
If I take queen E4,
Queen
then I
E4,
have
and
to
some
think. Yes.
checks.
So
yeah, yeah.
here I played rook C3,
C3,
queen E2, queen C4, queen E1, and now I took. No, wait, what did I do now? I played.
Okay, took something. Yeah?
No, did I take?
Regrettably?
No. I played now
Let's move
rook D3, rook D3.
40.
Rook D3,
right?
that's it.
Move for
Rook
43.
D3, he played knight C6, rook D1,
Queen
queen
D1.
D1, queen D5. And he
Queen to,
resigned.
wow! No, of course we had to see it till the very end. That's a beautiful finish. Anyway, congrats. Seems like you are back on track. Hopefully.
Hopefully.
And yeah, good luck with the tournament end game. So you still have three games
Yes.
to play. And yeah, I will be back just in a second because we will have another winner of one of the games. Brandon Jacobson won his game against Chandra Akshat, and that's what we will have right now, guys. Just quickly, while Brandon takes his seat, quick update. Yeah, so Yangyi has won. Nyzhnyk saved his game for a draw against Van Nguyen, and Hans's game, well, kind of heads towards a draw, but I'm not 100% sure. Anyway, please welcome Brandon Jacobson with his win against Chandra. So, hi, how is it going?
It could be better, could be worse. Definitely not happy with my chess this tournament, but I'll take the wins as they come.
All right. Yeah, well, as you know, that's kind of outside observer, it seems that you're perhaps one of the few people who actually care about how interesting the games are.
For sure.
Because, yeah, well, there are very sort of efficient guys,
Right.
you know, who are trying to be, and every time you play a game, it's entertaining. So that's, you get thank you very much from the commentators at the very least.
Right. Yeah, no, I figure even if I'm losing, I may as well put up a fight, like, against both Raunak and Kantor. Like, okay, I played this interesting line of Nimzo against Raunak, which backfired, but I figured at least it's worth trying to fight because he's super well prepared. Of course, he was well prepared against what I played too, but I figured that was worth a try. And against Kantor, I played the modern just because, you know, at this point, I'm just trying to have fun with the tournament. It's definitely not going my way, so yeah, I'm just trying to play interesting chess and see where it goes. Yeah, going to this game, I figured I wanted to stabilize a bit. I didn't really prepare at all for this game. I sort of just wanted to relax and come back stronger after the tough loss yesterday. Yeah, so I threw this bishop d2 line at him. I haven't looked at the details of this in quite a bit of time, but I figured it would be a surprise for him as well.
Right, and as far as I can tell, like people usually play it as some strange queen's gambit with the bishop on d2. So you're pretty much doing all the same, like bishop d3 and try to play over the c file.
Right.
Is that the idea, right? Bishop d3, bishop b7, and some knight b5 move.
Yeah, so, I mean, the main line by far is castling here, and that leads to some pretty wild complications because white will eventually play for knight e5 and f4, and at least, like, for example, bishop f8 after castle.
Yeah, castle, if we input castle,
is-
because
this-
I remember some high-rated, kind of high-profile games must be there, right?
Mhm, definitely, yeah.
So bishop f8, we still have like Vidit games, Artemiev against Dominguez, and so on and so on. Right. And then you'd go knight e5
Right.
eventually and sport with f4, right? Is
Exactly,
that-
yeah.
'cause-
And it leads to some crazy lines with f4 and queen f3, or knight e2, bishop e1, that sort of thing.
Okay.
So, yeah, I couldn't remember the exact details of that line. And I knew knight b5 was somewhat of a safe try. I know that the only thing I remembered about this line is that black's cleanest equality is to play knight a6 here.
Knight a6,
Yeah.
interesting.
And
So-
the point is, okay, I can't take on b4 and take on c7 because you're just rook c8 trick.
Ah, well, rook c8 is nice, yeah, and rook to c1, and you might even think, okay, I haven't met. But when you ever capture the rook, knight d3 just wins everything.
Right, so
Okay.
that's sort of a better version of what happens in the
or
game.
what he got.
Because after take, I mean, my knowledge ended here, but I just knew that white was supposed to have a very slight advantage. Because, okay, black's bishop's a bit bad, and it's pretty solid for white always. Pieces are pretty well placed. Yeah, after knight e4, I couldn't figure out the correct way of playing this. I mean, I wasn't sure whether the queen should go on c2 or d1. Queen d1 felt right to me, but okay, I see now the computer is not agreeing with me.
Hey, I don't think you should pay attention to this particular machine because
Sure,
it's
sure.
not very deep.
Sure. Yeah.
It does say queen c2 is like marginally better, but once again, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so
queen
after
to d1.
c5, yeah, here I just totally lost my mind. I mean, okay, I was calculating a lot of different stuff. For example, let's say I start with d takes c5, b takes c5, bishop takes e4. Here you can go rook takes e4. And the problem is, yeah, I can take on c5, but he has queen b6. I'd even consider going rook takes d5 here. Bishop takes, and then queen c6. And okay, I mean, probably white shouldn't be worse here with 2 pawns, but
yeah.
I figured it probably wasn't enough for.
But like really nothing. It would seem that yeah, something should work, but
Yeah.
nothing really does.
Yeah, exactly. And instead of d takes c5, I can also play something sort of slow with like b3.
Just to stop C.
Just to stop C4, yeah.
advance,
And then just castle and sort of play the position. Maybe it's a bit comfortable for white, just playing for slight advantage. But yeah, in the game, I mean, I castled thinking, okay, he can go c4, and I would take on e4, and then knight d2, and then I quick with like a4 and b3, so that isn't good. And then so instead he should go like a6 or knight d7 or something like that, and then I'll probably go b3 and get something similar. And I just completely forgot he could take on c3 and go c4. Like I just
a6,
blundered.
knight c3. So this one, it's a knight c3.
I just
and
completely blundered, yeah. And yeah, I'm already in serious danger of being worse here, honestly, because okay, it's ending c4, b5 super quickly, and my pieces aren't really well placed here. I still need, if I want to play for e4, I still need a few more moves to set it up. So yeah.
So we captured with the pawn, right? c4.
And here I spent a lot of time because I needed to make a decision. Do I want to play ambitiously here and risk more, or I can sort of just wait passively? And so for example, like objectively, I would assume I should go bishop c2. And then just try to play like a4, rook b1, and try to hold the queen side together.
Okay.
But I mean, clearly white's not playing for anything, and I'm just trying to equalize here. But I figured bishop b1 is a lot more interesting, just playing for a quick like knight d2, rook e1, like
E4.
f3, e4 even. So, I mean, of course, like this should be nothing for white, but I think he already started to go wrong here. So he spent a bit of time and he played knight c6.
Yeah, knight d7 we can say recommended by the engine.
Right, knight
probably,
c6 felt like a step in the wrong direction. I think knight d7 was far more logical.
Knight d2, b5, rook to e1. And he's very serious about this queen side, right?
Right.
a5.
Yeah, I think he was counting on his counterplay with b4 against my e4 plan, but I think it was just a bit too slow.
So that's exactly what happened, yeah? e4, b4, because we got distracted from this game somewhere around this point. e to d5, queen d5, and...
Sorry, I don't want to steal the show for too
Yeah,
long,
yeah.
but there are
No,
some
tell
really
me.
nice
Yeah, of
lines here.
course. Sure,
So
sorry.
after e takes d5, if he takes on e1 here,
yeah, sure.
he can do this, queen takes e1, queen takes d5. And now bishop e4, queen b5 is sort of a better version for black because my queen is misplaced. But I think I have
b5, yeah?
queen e4 instead of bishop e4, which is quite strong. Because he has some trouble with his pieces in this endgame, and like...
right, so if he takes,
Then
you
bishop
just take
takes.
with the bishop, and somehow he's probably pawn down.
Right, like there are some tricks with like knight takes d4 and knight e2 at some point. Like let's say he could start with rook e8, for example. I thought maybe like f3, but now he can go b takes c3 and then knight takes d4, rook takes c3, knight takes d4 with the knight e2 trick. And I couldn't make sense of all these lines, but yeah, I figured at minimum I can go rook takes c4, and even these endgames where it's all simplified is still a bit tricky for black with the a pawn.
Yeah,
being
with
weak.
the back rank and the a pawn being
Right. So in the game though, after queen takes d5 immediately, which I think was correct. Bishop e4, queen
Yeah,
b5.
So queen to d5, bishop e4, queen b5.
And my first instinct, like from a few moves back, was to go a4, to throw an a4 here, which looks right. But the problem is he can take rook b1, and he has knight b4 here, which I think seems like really dangerous for me.
Yeah, we don't know if it actually works, but
Right.
during the game it's easy to get scared of it. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. And once I saw that, I was like, okay, I don't want any part of this. So yeah, I think I made the correct decision to take on b4.
Yeah, so you captured on b4.
And it feels to me like somehow black should be able to sack a pawn in a way where he gets some activity and probably has decent drawing chances. Like maybe the best try for black is to take on d4 instead of b4.
So like knight to d4, right?
Right. So let's say a bishop takes b7, queen takes b7, rook takes c4, and then like rook e d8, for example. And I think maybe this was a better try because at least black has some activity for the pawn here. I mean, okay, white should still be pushing at least, but yeah, I think this was a better try for him.
So he'll definitely win this guy back, right?
Yeah.
Like ba5 though, and I'm not sure if he can take on a5, but
That's true.
who knows? Yeah.
Okay, yeah, maybe not precisely this, but I feel like somehow there should have been a better try. Because in the game, I mean, it felt like sort of a clean pawn up for me. Although it still wasn't that easy for me to convert. But he was super low on time also, and it felt like my moves were pretty natural.
Ah, right. So it's just somewhere around this point. I just didn't pay attention to the clock. It was
Right.
already down to like 2 minutes only.
Yeah, to defend this position with a minute on your clock is a nightmare.
So traded over here, knight c4, and it is an extra pawn. And then were there like other
Yeah, I
moments?
think he started to go wrong around here. Maybe he should play something like rook d8 and just try to immediately get counterplay, like sack a5 and then go like queen, I don't know, a7 or somehow just try to win one of the pawns back, and then hopefully hold on there. Because the way he played in the game after knight e3, and once I get in like d5 and rook c4 and I make space for my king, it feels pretty smooth for white.
Yeah, d5 he can never take because this? Or?
Well, if rook c5, actually knight e3 might be interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, I should go rook c4 and rook d4.
Rook c4, rook d4 is... Yeah, rook c5, that's funny, right? Check here.
Yeah, I might be in some trouble
and
here. Yeah.
This is a threat, capturing the knight, it's queen e3. Whoa. Yeah, have to be tricky till the, or rather pay attention to the tricks till the very end, right?
No, right, I was stressed here. Like, considering the things I've been missing this tournament, like, even here I was making sure to stay accurate and spend the time to put him away.
Right, but he played f5 and...
Yeah, he got down to the last few seconds and he just panicked here. And then g3, f4,
rook c4. Ah, yeah, and you're winning another pawn. Yeah. But anyway, overall, like under the circumstances, you said like you were doubting yourself every other move.
Right.
So that seems to be like a great game, great comeback.
Great, yeah.
Yeah. What can I say? Good luck with the remaining, with the end game, as I say today. End game of the tournament, 3 last rounds, and you know, a lot of games were saved or even won in the end game. So
True.
maybe, maybe you'll have better luck.
Great, yeah, thank you.
Thanks very much for joining, and we will be back with Jonathan very, very soon. All right, and meanwhile, I'll check never-ending game between Oparin and Hans. Past the time control, it's already something, and it's not a draw, which is also, yeah, and Hans's pawn wants to make 3 moves in a row and promote and win the game. Can this be right? Yep, just let me see. Yeah, of course. Of course, if you ask the engine, it's always a draw. Engine is good at finding those like perpetuals or fortresses or whatever it is, but I'd be scared. Being Oparin, I'd be scared that this pawn is actually running quite fast.
That's right. And I'm glad to be back with you, Miro.
Yeah.
I'm back in the
welcome
studio.
back.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird position, right? Because it looks like, I mean, these kind of queen pawn things where things are wide open, it always feels like maybe this is perpetual, but I mean, obviously, there's that e-pawn running down the board.
How do you do
so,
it? How do you do it?
there must be a way, but can white figure it out?
It's kind of tricky, right? So it might be that once again, computer gives you, well, that's equal.
Sure, it probably is,
But you check and it's one, one straight line. You have to say go queen e8 threatening this, right? He captures and then you go e5 and you say, okay, this is, I actually have no idea. I didn't pick.
But like,
I didn't pick. Yeah, but imagine this being a
point is
draw
the computer
and all
will
the rest,
easily say,
and all the rest
like
would
that,
be
so.
white be lost. Yeah, so
right,
that's still some pressure on Oparin, even though objectively perhaps it's a draw.
All right.
Vidit against Abasov. They've also passed the time control. Abasov is an exchange down, but he has some threats, I believe. He has some threats to this king, so we could actually check what happened. So queen h3, I believe we've seen, rook h8, rook h1, rook e3, and rook d8 guards the pawn. How did he ended up losing an exchange or sacrificing an exchange, should I say? g6, rook e2, knight e5. Okay, that's the one. Queen a6, c4, and he decided to simply, maybe there was no way back.
Yeah.
Maybe there was no way back.
Seeing a lot of these knight interference tactics.
Yeah, but it doesn't look all that depressing for black, because now he's threatening queen c2, after king a1, bishop e5, once again a threat, rook b1, and queen, even like queen c2 or a by the way, a4. What does white do after a4? It's a big, big question because a3 is a serious threat.
Here.
a3 is a serious threat. Trying to guard on the third rank, at least with the rook. Maybe queen f3 works, but rook h3 I'm sure does not. So rook takes b2, or doesn't it work? I mean, I was pretty confident it doesn't work because of some discovered. Maybe this works. In fact, rook c2 check. And yeah, I mean, I don't know.
So
like, everything's hanging.
Oh.
Everything's hanging. So there might be some troubles.
Vidit, our tournament leader, potentially in a lot of trouble here. And I also want to take just a little bit of time. You know, I'm kind of gathering my thoughts. I'm getting back into this thing, and we actually have a question for you from the chat, and this is from YouTube chat. This is Patrick Daly. He is asking. He's got a question for Miro about Nyzhnyk's game yesterday. Since he missed the beginning of the broadcast, Miro, are you surprised that Illia dropped that position or not? Now, if you remember yesterday, Illia was kind of struggling to defend that position against Yu Yangyi. Are you actually surprised by the result that Yu Yangyi was able to convert it? I believe this is the question.
Right. I mean, it's kind of twofold because once again, the game was yesterday, and we also started to look at not from the very beginning.
Sure,
so the initial position that, say, happened after the opening, the end game where white is perhaps marginally better, it is somewhat surprising, right?
Yeah.
But I think when we've tuned in already, Illia had this silly knight on a6.
Yes, it was there for quite a while.
And usually it's very easy to misplay this kind of position. So that's what I'm probably going to say. So computer might say, yeah, it is defendable, you just have to be precise, but that's exactly what's hard, right? I mean, when your pieces are, we humans are not that bad at chess when the moves are logical, right? I mean, so give me the open file, I'll be able to swap all the rooks you give me on this open file. This I can do perfectly, right? Give me an outpost for the knight, I'll get the knight to the outpost. But if it's like kind of really weird looking setup, and you have to come up with precise moves all the way, it's very easy to misplay. And once again, white had the initiative, so it was easier for white to play.
Very nice answer, and thank you. And yes, if you guys do have your questions, please make sure you send them in the chat or in the comments if you're watching this after this has been published on YouTube. All right, and with that, let's get right back into the action.
Yeah, I just realized that Yu Yangyi on +2, and he probably joins the leaders unless at least one of them wins. Oparin doesn't look like he can win. So
we're still waiting to see what happens in the Oparin Hans Niemann game.
And Vidit is also in a bit of a trouble. So Yu Yangyi might be,
Wow. Yeah,
and there is one more game, sorry. Nikolas Theodorou against Aram Hakobyan.
Okay.
And these guys, for quite a while, they are playing a very, very, what originally looked like a dead draw endgame. So let me quickly run through this game. So it was a Catalan, right? White has played g3, a Catalan with knight c3 move. Yeah. Well, today earlier in the club, I was talking about this line.
What do you say? You're not supposed to do it?
It's an interesting take. It's quite a tricky option instead of like a usual castle, which is much more theoretized. Like everyone knows literally everything. D takes, knight e5, just a quick shout out to queen d6 move, which was played by, among the others, Hikaru Nakamura.
Okay,
queen
very
d6, move. It's sharp, but it seems it works. Okay. Because knight c6, that usually pretty much what white wants. So the whole trick here is that there is such position with the knight on b1 and short castle, right?
Okay.
Where black's responses are c5 or d5, and at safe black goes exactly as in this line, so bishop e3. The whole point is that white is planning to castle long, interestingly enough. So opposite castles, you would say the open b file and so on, but it turns out that the bishop is almost useless. Bishop b7, white always plays f3, the bishop is not very active. b2 is easy to guard with the king on c1, with rook on d2 if needed. And white enjoys this little positional edge, and there were games with long castle. I believe Hikaru, by the way, lost himself against Fabi Caruana here at Sinfield Cup some 5 years ago. So that's a tricky line. After knight d5, yes, indeed, white castle short. rook e1, queen b4, and very often something like this would happen. So this endgame with opposite-colored bishops, white sometimes be pawn up, sometimes would just have somewhat better structure. The thing is, black is always kind of struggles a little bit. I don't want to say like black is always worse, but struggles a little bit. Okay,
this is a nice little
so
move.
c3, yeah, that's a nice way of not dropping the c4 pawn, but rather getting something like that, where you would think, okay, but there is absolutely nothing for white. The position should be dead equal, but it tends to be white still has some ideas. So c4, pawn's hanging, he blocks the b file. f4, I honestly, I don't like very much. I'd prefer f3 to restrict the bishop, but anyways, and perhaps Theodorou decided that he needs more space on the king side. And that's what happens. And still, I mean, it's like not a huge pawn, but it's still a pawn. Bishop a5, and you cannot play c6 because rook d6. It is somewhat annoying. Rook d8, now rook enters. So it's still, but black has to be precise. Black still has to be precise. And now c6, bishop c6, rook f5, and now it's already an extra pawn and not doubled, because white to move, white can take on e5.
Yeah, very nice.
So black is getting slowly outplayed in this endgame. That's what I want to say. Yeah, nice from Nikolas Theodorou.
I mean, it looks like maybe rooks will be coming off. We might have opposite colored bishops. Do you think there's a real serious chance of winning this game?
No, but that's what he's thinking right now, because he can trade the rooks and b2 pawns up, it seems, because there is no way of guarding c7, so he will try to calculate everything.
He wants to see
if it works or not, yeah. If it doesn't win, he always has a plan B. He can take on e5 with the rook, and that's, you cannot tell if it's winning or not, but that's always better, right? I mean, it's an extra pawn with the rooks, with more active pieces. So two very attractive options. He just has to decide which one he will prefer.
All right. So we'll see what Nikolas Theodorou comes up with here. This is one to keep some attention on.
Yeah. And yeah, once again, just a quick update. Oparin against Niemann. The e4, king to f1 was played by Grigoriy Oparin. So queen e2 as the reply to e3. So, or maybe not even playing queen e2. No, he'll have to. I just realized. I wanted to say queen guards e2, so no threats, and you can push your pawn. But there is one little threat. Queen f2, checkmate in one.
Pretty good big threat.
Yeah. So you'll have to play queen e2. And maybe that's how the game ends. I mean, captures, black picks this one with a check, but then white has checks, then black has checks, and it goes on.
So this could very easily be fizzling out then into a draw?
Yeah, but for now, it's Hans who is trying. I mean, it's Hans who is trying to win.
Interesting. So we'll see if he comes up with something more interesting here.
Right, and in the other one, Vidit, since he's got, Abasov, since he's got half an hour. So Vidit was thinking, Vidit was thinking, but let's move like, for Vidit it was in a way easier, because that's after move 40, queen c2 is a big threat. You have to go king a1 after bishop e5. I bet you have like strictly only move to protect b2, which is rook b1. And then Abasov, of course, is looking for a way to continue. He's got quite a few of those.
Well, other than just keep pushing the
a pawn.
What's the other option for black?
Yeah, I don't know. You could just play something kind of centralized, they say. Yeah, queen e4 and start pushing the d pawn. Maybe you don't need queen e4 at all. Maybe you go d4 immediately even. d4, d3. I mean, how bad can it be with the pawn on d3 with the rook on the second rank?
Yeah, it's a serious pawn.
Yeah, I actually think black might be just better.
Yeah,
just better, because the first illusion, first impression, like you still have the image of white controlling the game, being better, attacking, the weaknesses, and then you think, okay, and now white is exchange up, so he converted his advantage into something material, converted. And it turns out that, he perhaps just got outplayed, and it's black who is running the show now. Okay, so just quickly, let's check the B tournament. We've got a couple of results here. Yeah, Kadric has won with black, Jacobson won with white. We still have Chirila and you against Lenderman.
What's going on with Cristian? How is Cristian doing?
Cristian, as per usual, he just made the time control requirement. Their game just reached move 40. Cristian, it looks like, I mean, first of all, it looks like his position is very good. He's probably winning. And
Yeah, I'm trying to just see
the
if there's
second-
an actual
look,
win here.
The second observation is that both kings been through some storm, you know.
Yeah, how did this happen? How did these kings
that's
end up where
exactly.
they're
I
at?
mean, why the king is on G3 in Rui Lopez?
All right, well, let's
What happened?
see. This is
So
going to be a fun
A6,
one.
knight F6, so far so good. D3, B5. No big surprises here. C3, after D3 I just didn't mention. So D3 and move 5. Black actually very often goes for bishop C5 instead of bishop E7, right? So he must have had a very good reason to play D3 here. And one of the guesses would be that his opponent was intending to play the so-called open Spanish, right? So castles, and then black goes knight E4, right?
Sure.
That's a called open.
Always happy to see this avoided.
Yeah, but no, I mean, just making a point that other move than taking on
Correct,
E4
yeah,
is bishop
obviously.
E7, kind of more theoretical, so to speak. And then white can play D3, having the same position as in the game in reality, right? But depriving black from the option of playing bishop C5. So that's, unless you're afraid of the open Spanish, unless your opponent plays the open Spanish, then 5D3 sort of less precise than 6D3. But anyway, those are like subtleties nobody cares about. D6, C3 castles, rook E1, knight A5, C5. So basically we are talking like what's it called, the Chigorian, I think the Chigorian variation of Rui
where black plays
Lopez
this early C5
with
stuff.
white being a full tempo down perhaps, right? Because he played D3 and D4
Yeah.
and normally the pawn goes to D4 in one go. But the thing is, black has spent this tempo on H7, H6, which arguably can be a harmful move later on, because the pawn can be targeted, like especially if the center gets blocked. Okay, it didn't get blocked in our game, but very often in the Chigorian, white would go D5, and all those Karpovian games, D5, G4, knight to G3, blah, blah, and then the pawn on H6 might actually be a target.
So it's always something black needs to worry about.
Yeah, so that's why like a full trade on D4, those are very often, black doesn't really care about this little weakness on D6 and has very decent counterplay on semi-open files and looking for
Queen goes all the way
D5.
back.
And he did play D5. Okay, so how come Cristian managed to...
You don't see how the king gets to G3? Is that what you're telling me?
yeah, not yet. So bishop B4, knight E4. Of course we are sacrificing in exchange. And I guess after bishop E1, some knight D6, white is just much better. So therefore, the knight was not taken. Rook E2, rook to C4, bishop B3. Black could have traded the queens, but then just realized, yeah. Because you know me, I'm a pensioner. I really like trading the queens whenever I get a chance. But then you'd like to avoid rook d7, but doing so it's even worse because e6, right? So you really can't allow yourself to trade on d1. So rook d4, queen c2, queen d7. Still doesn't look any bad for black, if you ask me. I don't know, something. Yeah, I mean this has to be an acceptable position for black. Bishop d5, traded, a check, b3, so perhaps, black went on the very, very aggressive way. G5 for whatever reason, and then a check, and
All right,
queen
king
d4.
is coming up.
Yep, e6, queen a1,
Uh-oh.
threatening a checkmate, he thought, but bishop b8,
all the way to b8.
Bravo, Cristian.
Look
Rook
at that.
c1, capture.
And now whose king is weaker now?
Yeah, he doesn't want to capture because I guess just check rook e4 and f3 if needed. Yeah, the king rook g3 is perfectly safe, it turns out. Rook e3, queen c6.
Yeah, isn't this scary for
bishop
black?
e5. Yeah, it is. It actually is.
Black had this like major attack, but the king just ran away, and now it looks
Yeah,
like
first
the
of
black
all,
king under
first of all,
pressure.
white could just trade, take on e4, he loses f7, but he's still like a pawn up in the endgame with everything
Yeah.
under control. But Cristian, of
I think
course,
you want to keep the queens
plays,
on.
yeah, he plays queen e8,
I like
which is a
this
very
one.
good move, of course. Bishop d5, and just goes back to h2.
Yeah, just run away,
Goes
no
back
problem.
to h2. There is, there are some difficulties guarding the f8 bishop.
Wow, and this
I
could be
think-
huge for Cristian.
I
if he
think
can
Christian's
somehow find
winning.
a way to win this
Yeah,
one.
looks like Christian's winning here.
He started off a little bit, you know, it was a bit of a rocky start, but you know, he won yesterday, he's coming back, and he's kind of getting himself back into this tournament, which is great to see.
Yep.
All right, and with that, let's actually go ahead and take a look at our standings. All right, while we're having the issues again, maybe you guys can hear us, maybe you can't. But maybe we could just real quick have a look at the standings for the A group. Here they are. Obviously, we still have some games going on, but we have Yangyi sitting at the top of the leaderboard for now with 4 points. We still need to see what's happening in the Vidit game, but perhaps he is in a little bit of trouble. Oparin is going up against Hans Niemann. Probably a draw, but we're not quite sure yet.
Yeah, so that's the feeling. So Yangyi, he will not be in a sole lead, but it's unlikely that he will not be tied.
Correct.
Right, because neither Vidit nor Oparin seem to win their games. Well, perhaps both not going to lose, so someone will be tied with Yangyi.
So that is what we are waiting to see on that game. There's also Van Nguyen and Illia Nyzhnyk, both kind of hanging in there with 3.5 and 3 points respectively. Obviously, then we still have quite a lot of games. It's not even worth talking about. We'll have some updated standings for you tomorrow when we have a little bit more information. Miro, what's going on in the B group?
In the B group, let's see. So Raunak Sadhwani has lost, and with all due respect, he mathematically cannot remain in the lead because Christopher Yu and Alex Lenderman, they are playing each other. So at least one of those will score something.
Yes, so we'll see what happens.
Right, well...
And, yeah, we'll have somebody else in the lead for tomorrow's action.
So Denis Kadric improves his situation. Gergely Kantor is still in the game, so might, if he wins, I didn't check his game lost, but if he wins, he might actually join Raunak Sadhwani somewhere at the top in the tournament.
This B group, everything is so close. Everything is kind of coming down to the wire, and we only have 3 more days of action here, which is actually kind of incredible. So we are looking forward to covering more of the action tomorrow at 4 p.m. Central Time. Thank you so much to everybody hanging out with us. Make sure if you are following us that you watch the games on uschesschamps.com. Use the hashtag FallChessClassic, and we will see you guys tomorrow.
Yeah, we'll see you tomorrow. Hopefully everything's going to be tipped up. And until tomorrow, thank you very much.
This has been a presentation of the St. Louis Chess Club. Any reproduction or distribution of this content without the express written consent of the St. Louis Chess Club is prohibited.